Good morning. Welcome to Ask Online. Answers for the seekers of the kingdom. From Kolkata Salesians, from the Salesian province of Kolkata. I am Father Gilbert from Nidiga Don Bosco, Kolkata. A center basically meant for catechetical formation of the people. We are back again after a bang, of course, from the nature, cyclone Amphan. Welcome back again after a few days of disruption of our internet facilities, and we are happy to come back again. Ask Online discusses on the questions raised by the faithful from all over the world on matters of faith, and we try to answer so that you are clarified on our matters of faith. This will facilitate your love and respect for our Catholic faith. Today we have a question on prayer. Before we get into the main question on prayer, some of the questions and issues were not clarified, some were not answered due to lack of time. So we will go straight back to the clarifications part of the previous topics. Some we could not answer in the last session due to lack of time, so we will get back to that. The first one was about First Holy Communion and Confirmation. Esther from Varanasi asks, what is the right age for First Holy Communion and Confirmation? In some churches, they are given together. Is it the right way? Very nice question, very important question for all the families when they get ready their children for the First Holy Communion and Confirmation. What does the church say about the age, first of all? The specific chronological age is not mentioned in the teachings of the church. Where do you find? In the canon law, it does not mention. Canon law says for the confirmation, age of discretion. What is this age of discretion? Age of discretion would be a responsible and self-managed age of the candidate. When that age would be, it depends. Society to society, culture to culture, area to area, age of discretion, and the type of candidate who is able to have a kind of responsible age. Why do we say this age of discretion? Because this is to facilitate the candidate in helping the candidate to understand the faith well through catechetical instruction and preparation. So you cannot give to a person who does not understand anything, especially these sacraments. Now, who decides the age specific? It is left to the Episcopal Conference. What is this Episcopal Conference? Every country has got a kind of bishops' conference. In India, it is called CCBI, if it is Latin, or Syro-Malabar Synod, if it is Syro-Malabar. If it is Syro-Malankara, Syro-Malankara Synod. There are three bodies like that. They decide. Or even local dioceses will decide what age to be given. So accordingly, we need to follow. So if you do not know what age your child has to receive confirmation, ask your parish priest or ask the diocese in charge. That is the best. Even for First Holy Communion, the canon law says it is age of reason. What is this age of reason? Age of reason, the child, the person, candidate has sufficient knowledge to understand. Again, this is to facilitate catechetical instruction and preparation. There are three sacraments which are need to be given with proper catechetical instruction: baptism, First Communion, and confirmation. These are called actually sacraments of initiation. They have to be administered, they have to be given by the church to the candidates with proper catechetical instruction. Baptism, the baby does not understand, then whom to catechize? The parents and the godparents. There should be proper catechetical instruction. And who is the normal minister for the confirmation? Normally it is bishop, but bishop can delegate a priest even. But adult catechumens, when they are baptized, that means adults who are baptized, confirmation is automatically given to them by the priest who administers baptism. So remember that. Others, bishop normally is a minister, but even with the permit of the bishop, a priest can give in necessities. Now, can we mix these sacraments together? Ideally speaking, it is very important to separate the sacraments and give a separate occasion, so that importance is given to each sacrament. Confirmation is a sacrament. First communion is a sacrament of the Eucharist. So these things have to be given not together, so that the identity and distinction of each sacrament is revered and respected and understood by the community and the candidates. Sometimes it is given together for the sake of getting the people together, or the friends and neighbors and relatives together. But I would suggest it is always better to give separately. So that is a question about First Communion and confirmation. There is another question which we did not tackle, a question coming from Stanley in Kolkata. Why don't we Catholics don't believe in rapture? Now, many of us do not know what is this rapture. In fact, Catholics don't use this term at all. All these ideas are all coming from not from Protestants. It is not from Orthodox. They don't believe in rapture. Neither Orthodox, nor Catholics, nor Protestants, Reformers. It is coming from 19th century evangelicals. So this idea, promoted and propagated in the media, has affected even Catholics, the teaching or doctrine of rapture. We don't believe in the doctrine of rapture. What is this rapture? I will get back to it a little later. Let me explain. Basically, it is connected to coming of Christ. We believe in the two comings of Christ. One is first coming, the other final coming. First coming already happened at Bethlehem. He was born as a man. The Word became flesh. That's the first coming of God. The second coming of God, Jesus, is the final coming, final day. That is what we call in Greek parousia. Early Christians thought the second coming was immediate and imminent, and they were waiting that this second coming would happen in their lifetime. That was their thought, actually. So they were praying for the coming of the Lord. Second coming. In fact, Advent season, we wait for the first coming and final coming. Both comings we wait. Advent means to wait for the coming. Which coming? Not only on the Christmas day, but also on the final coming. Now, what is this rapture? Strictly speaking, rapture means a feeling of intense joy and happiness. That's a literal meaning of rapture. But all this idea, doctrine comes or promoted by evangelicals in the 19th century. I remember 19th century. Catholics never promoted or even used this word. It is coming from 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 17. It's a St. Paul's teaching. What is this teaching of St. Paul? Then we who are alive, who are left, will be caught up together with them in the clouds. This is a verse from there. Now the verse will be caught up together. That caught up together was translated by Saint Jerome when he translated the Bible from the original to Latin. He used the word rapiemur in Latin, okay, which becomes the word rapture. This was the translation. Now, secondly, much more seriously, the evangelical use, there was a book written, and later as a novel, later as a movie, Left Behind, a particular book. And this book introduces and propagates the doctrine of rapture by the evangelicals alone. No other Protestants promote. No Catholics or Orthodox promote this thing. Especially the movie, if you have seen Left Behind, promotes this. In fact, the original word in Greek is harpazo. the Greek word used. That means will be caught in the air. Rise, the people will be risen and jumped up and caught in the air. Something harpazo, which means be taken away or snatched away. To understand this, you need to understand the language of St. Paul, where early Christians, when they were dead, they never used to be written as or called as dead. They were called slept in Christ. Slept. That's a word used. So they were dead people are called sleeping in Christ, in the Sheol. So on the final day, these people who are slept or sleeping, means dead, they will rise from their sleep. That's the word harpazo, actually, the meaning on the final. And we Catholics believe at the final coming, the whole creation will be manifested, will be shown the glory of God. Whereas Rapture believes there is something before the final coming, a kind of preliminary coming of Jesus, or something like in between. Some are caught in the clouds and some are left behind. So these are all the stages of final coming, this doctrine or falsely teaching, which we Catholics or Orthodox Protestants believe. We all believe on the final day. Jesus has taught about his final coming, even in his teachings of the parables. So final day, the entire creation will be showing the manifestation of the glory of God. We don't believe in the stages of this final coming. Some are caught in between, or there will be a preliminary coming before and final coming later. We don't believe in such things. So that is rapture. Then there is another question on non-Christian symbols. If the others don't like, should we use, like bindi, and we try to discuss and answer that. But I would say one more thing. If it generates hatred and dislike and anger to a particular religious community, religion community, okay, I would suggest we should not generate hatred and anger, because we adapt some cultural symbols which can be of religious symbols to some people. So we need to be very prudent, especially in the use. Unless the entire society, community, and it has become part of the community for several centuries as a tradition, so that it does not become a kind of hatred or a symbol of hatred for other religions. I gave the example of Malaysian Christian community who were using actually the word Allah for God for centuries. And now they have to change. The other community wanted as their particular monopoly of that word. So this is a problem. So we need to be very prudent and wise in adapting, unless the community is catechized and also it does not generate hatred and disunity and division among the communities. That is a question used. There is another question asked by Sunida in Punjab. Question about what about women covering head in the church? Should we do, should we not do? Some are covering, some don't cover. Why don't men don't cover? Okay, this issue is emerging from the Bible, where St. Paul speaks about women should cover their head in moments of liturgical functions, sacred functions. Now feminists may oppose this view, saying St. Paul was anti-feminist, or St. Paul was speaking against women. Now, to understand all these teachings in the Bible of St. Paul, we need to understand how women were understood and treated in the time of the Bible, the society and religion. So the women were not treated as men in the society and also in the religion. They had a different way of looking at women and understanding even the social matters. So we need to understand the culture and the time where St. Paul is speaking about covering the head. It is actually to facilitate a kind of respect and reverence to the sacredness and sacred elements. In that sense, even today, we need to promote reverence and sacredness through our dress. It's not for women alone, for everybody. Our presence in the sacred functions or liturgical time, especially Mass, should not be a time for fashion parade or to demonstrate our latest colors and dresses and other cosmetics. It is not the time for that. So some kind of dress code is good in order to promote respect to the sacredness we are participating. That is very important. We are not going for a show or a party or a celebration of another nature. It is a kind of liturgical service. So our dress and appearance is not only for individual, it is for the community. It is a community participation of the sacred functions. So if one is not part of that, it can affect the entire community. So dress code is very important. But at the same time, the understanding of women in the church, women covering the head, that was done at that time due to the cultural understanding and religious understanding. Even today, that type of cultural and religious understanding have not disappeared fully from us. There are countries and places where gender inequality is disappearing, and there is so much of space for freedom and also understanding of equality among the gender in many countries and in the church. I remember even in India, it is not completely disappeared, this gender inequality. It is still there, the differences between men and women even in the church. For example, when I was young, my parish where I was brought up, in my early school years, I still remember men were all in the front side, women are all at the back side of the church. That's the way the church was giving the space, the nave. This is a nave where the faithful were participating in the mass. Men always in the front, women second class at the back. When the church was rebuilt in my parish, this idea progressed a little more, and they put men on one side, women on the other side. Still not fully, equality has not been understood or seen among them. And this is seen most of our churches in India, not probably in the West, but in the most of the Indian churches you will find men on one side, women on other side. So it is not just covering alone. How do you understand the gender? Are they treated from the equal footing, or men little higher, women little low, even the church? So this is the question we need to address, and for that the society and the community and the church people of God to be educated, catechized. Without education, we cannot introduce any change. They may rebel against all this. If you put all the men and women together, they may think it is wrong. So this is needing lots of education and progress of the mind, mindset and all that. So that is more important. In some places, women don't cover the head. In many places, the women cover the head as a sign of respect and reverence. So that does not mean you can come in any way you want without covering. You need to be properly, modestly dressed. That is more important, I would say, especially our behavior and presence in the church. So that is the answer I can give. Then there was a question. I would like to treat this question that appeared in the YouTube. I do not know from where this person is writing. It is only written Thrissur. I don't know whether this person is which place. But a question to one of the earlier Ask Online. The question is, why did Saint John Paul II kiss the Quran, which is full of blasphemy against God? And which is the reason? What is the reason for false ecumenism? This is a question. Why did Saint John Paul II kiss the Quran, which is full of blasphemy against God? What is the reason for false ecumenism? Now, before I answer the question, I need to correct the question or give answer on the question itself, which is formulated wrongly or understood wrongly. For example, why did Saint John Paul II kiss the Quran? And the Quran is defined by her as which is full of blasphemy against God. It's not correct. That's the first thing. Quran which is full of blasphemy. Catholics believe this. We have a lot of respect for Quran. And Second Vatican Council, which the highest body in the Catholic Church, and this body is above Pope. Remember this. The Second Vatican Council teachings are above any single person in the Catholic Church, even Pope. Even Pope has to abide by Second Vatican Council. And that particular body has given this teaching on other religions and even about Islamic religion. This is what we Catholics believe. Nostro Aetate, that is the name of the document, paragraph 3. Church regards with esteem also the Muslims. They adore one God, living and subsisting in himself, merciful and all-powerful, creator of heaven and earth. So we don't consider that God is a blasphemous God. Please don't think that way, actually. And what is written in the Quran, we also revere many things about God, whatever they consider. Though they do not acknowledge Jesus as God, they revere him as a prophet. They also honor Mary, his virgin mother. At times, they even call on her with a devotion. These are all written in our Vatican teaching that about Muslims. Then another thing, finally, they value the moral life and worship God, especially through prayer, almsgiving and fasting. We respect all that this particular religious group Muslims do. So we don't consider them blasphemous religion or community. And more than that, Nostra, this is very important. The Catholic Church rejects nothing of what is true and holy in these religions. This is very important statement. The Catholic Church rejects nothing what is true and holy. So what they consider holy and sacred, and we will not reject, and we will not even show any disrespect. Do we like if any other religions show disrespect to the Bible or Blessed Sacrament and do what they want? We will not. So we need to show a mutual respect and reverence to anything that is sacred and holy. This is the teaching of the church. And still, remember this, nonetheless, they reflect these books, these sacred scriptures and teachings of other religions, reflect a ray of truth. It's a very important teaching, a ray of truth. So, and we all believe that we are all coming from same father Abraham. Jews, Muslims, and Christians. We are all brothers and sisters. Remember this. We are all coming from Abraham. Pope John Paul II called Jews as elder brother. Okay, so Muslims are also our brothers and sisters. So in a world of coexistence, we need to respect, revere, and treat each other as brothers and sisters. Especially these three religions are coming from one father, Abraham. Then still later teaching, Pope Paul VI in Evangelii Nuntiandi, better way it is put. It is said, there are in other religions seeds of our word, seeds of the word of God are also in other religions. Vatican II Argentus again expresses seeds of the word hidden in the other religion. So the elements of our word anonymously hidden in other religions. So I need to show certain respect and reverence to the sacredness of other religion. This is basic way I can connect and relate with other people. To conclude on this, Vatican II Nostra Aetate says, I will read this. Since in the course of centuries, not a few quarrels and hostilities have arisen between Christians and Muslims, this sacred synod urges, sacred synod means Vatican II, this Vatican II Council urges all to forget the past and to work sincerely for mutual understanding and to preserve as well as to promote together for the benefit of all humankind, social justice and moral welfare as well as peace and freedom. In the post-COVID time, we need to work for coexistence and promote peace and work as brothers and sisters. Now, what about Holy Father John Paul II kissing the Quran? I checked, I was not aware, I checked in the YouTube, there is no video about this. There is only a picture, still picture. So whether it is a true, genuine event, I do not know. Secondly, I tried to look into many references to this. There are for and against references. Some say it is not kissing, it is only bowing towards the sacred book Quran. I believe if it has happened, it's a kind of a gesture of reverence. we all need to basically show. Pope John Paul II introduced prayer with all the religions. Praying with all the religious heads. It is part of our coexistence and promoting peace. When Pope Francis went to Sri Lanka, he prayed with the Buddhists together with the Buddhists, sat with them and prayed together. So we need to promote this way of world in the future. So please don't consider they are all wrong people and anti sacred or blasphemous people. Don't say such kind of things, I would say. Okay, now let us come to the main question. The main question comes from two people. John from Thrissur asks, are our prayers heard? I don't pray since I do not receive what I ask. What do you think? That's the first question. Second question coming from Tony in New Zealand. What does he ask? Why am I not able to speak to God and experience Him through my senses? We hear some saints had the ability to see, hear and experience God. Why not we? If that is the case, why should we pray then? So basically, both questions are related to prayer. We have one pillar of our faith, prayer. This book which I showed you, What You Should Believe, Catechism of the Catholic Church. This one pillar, there are 4 pillars in this book. The last pillar is prayer. I would suggest, if you can get time, read this part. Everything is written there. So basically this question deals with proper understanding of prayer. What is prayer for us Christians, especially Catholics? If you understand the meaning of prayer well, then these questions can be answered well. Some of the questions come, we don't understand what is prayer for us. Now, let me begin with the way we understand prayer. Many Catholics understand prayer is to ask God for various needs. So when I am sick, I need to ask God for something to heal me. God has to work some miracles to heal me. Now I am in COVID-19 time, lockdown, so God has to help me to come out of this. When there was Amphan, the cyclone in Kolkata, we pray so that all will be, saved, all will be in a way protected well. So we ask God for needs, and many a times when we are in trouble, we ask God. We use God as a switch button. You know what is switch button? When I need, I put God on. So God has to keep himself awake and he has to work on me. And that is what we call, or what most of the people think, prayer. Now that is not the only way to. It's only, if you consider entire prayer as iceberg, it is one tip of the iceberg. Prayer, there are varieties of ways of praying. It is not just for asking. There are asking prayer, what we call is prayer of intercession, of petition. Prayer of praise is there. Prayer of blessing is there. Prayer of adoration is there. There are many types of prayers are there. Do we use all other types of prayer? Only we use a prayer that we call only to ask. That's the first thing you need to understand. If you look at the definition of prayer in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, I'll give you 2-3 definitions, and you'll understand. Prayer is a living relationship with God. UCAT says, very nice statement. Prayer is a living relationship with God. So it is not just asking, it's a kind of relationship you establish. So it is not even speaking. It is a kind of relationship you experience. So this will answer how saints and mystics prayed. It is not asking and talking and they had a hotline with God. We don't have hotline. Our lines are all actually local lines. They are disrupted. No, it's not like that. It is a relationship. So prayer is kind of an experience of this relationship with God. You don't even need to talk. You don't even need to talk. So the understanding of prayer has to change in order to understand the questions raised here. So it is a living relationship with God. Do you experience a relationship with God? You prayed. Do you consider God part of your relationship? Like you relate with the people and things like that? So it's a relationship that you establish. That is prayer. That is the best definition of prayer in the Catechism. That means Jesus' whole life was prayer. Why? Jesus was continuously connected with his Father. So his whole life was prayer. This is what Catechism says. Little flower little flower, popularly known as Saint Therese or Child Jesus, she says another definition. Prayer is a surge of the heart, a kind of upliftment, overflow of the heart, surge of the heart. So that's a very nice definition. A surge of the heart means an flow coming, outflow from the heart, an overflow, kind of upliftment of the heart. And best definition of this one in the UCAT, the desire to pray is itself a prayer. Very nice. The desire to pray is itself a prayer. What does it mean? I want to pray. I did not pray. I did not go for prayer, but I wanted to pray. You already prayed. Means you already started connecting to God. The desire to pray is itself a prayer. So there are many ways of praying. In fact, I'll come to that prayer a little later. Now let us come to the question, prayers heard. Are our prayers heard? Because Jesus has said, ask and you will receive. Is he hearing all our prayers? This is one question all the people will ask. If you have watched the movie Bruce Almighty, where Jim Carrey is acting as the main hero there, protagonist there, Bruce Almighty, there is a kind of scene, it's a kind of encounter with God, the entire movie. A lay person encountering God in his life, Bruce Almighty. So at one moment, Bruce, this Jim Carrey, asked God, you are wonderful person, mighty God, all-knowing, omnipotent, omnipresent and all that. You will understand my problem as a human being if you are a human being and live like my family person. So God says, then you take my part, I will take a holiday. So Bruce takes the role of God and God takes a holiday for a week. You do what I do. So Bruce says, I will do all this, very beautiful and all that, to be God. And he becomes God. First day he enjoys being God, kicking and fighting all his enemies because he has got the power as God and all that. But he finds difficult that night he could not sleep. The reason is 24/7 prayers are coming from the whole humanity. He can't sleep. Prayers from all over the world, young, old, youth, adults, babies, everybody. He could not sleep. How do you address all these prayers? He tried to computerize them, he could not manage. And finally, at the end, he gives up being God. He says something like this, only you can do God. We human beings cannot manage being God. So I believe, apart from the movie's message, God hears all our prayers. God knows what you pray. So are our prayers heard? Yes, heard. But the next question, are our prayers answered? That's a question, because Jesus said, ask and you will receive. How many of you have asked and how many of you have received all that you have asked? I don't think so. You have received all that you asked. I have asked so many things. I never received so many things which I asked. So, but Jesus has said, ask and you will receive. Was Jesus wrong by saying that? Jesus said, if you ask, you will get it. I don't think many of us, majority of us who have asked, got what we asked from God. So, are our prayers all answered? To understand this, go back to the same passage where Jesus has spoken. That is the passage in Luke and Matthew where he speaks about. You can take for Luke chapter 11 verse 5 to 11 and all that, where you take this particular passage. Ask and you will receive. And Jesus gives an example of a friend who comes at night, knocks on the door of his friend and asks for something. That's a very beautiful story. And later Jesus questions this. If your child asks for a fish, would you give a snake? Now what does it mean? He's teaching about prayer. That means God knows what you ask. And God considers you as his friend. And if you are friends with each other, that's a relationship. Again, relationship. Jesus teaching prayer. So through this prayer, you are having a relationship. Not God as mighty man, you are as a bacha servant. No, you are friends. And you are asking as friends. No friend will abandon you. A friend in need is a friend who knows what to give best for his friend. Or it is like a father and the child. Jesus addressed his father as a father and a child. Abba, daddy and the child. So he gives example of, if a child asks for a fish, the father will not give a snake. So what does it mean? God knows what is best for all of us. So you may ask many things, but he knows what is best for us. Our human intelligence and human mind is nothing compared to the wisdom and intelligence of God. So our wisdom is foolish in the eyes of God. So if I ask something, God knows what is best for me to give. I may not get it, but he knows what is best for me. May not be now, may not be tomorrow, may not be later, but he knows what is best for me, how to live in this world. So our duty is to ask, and we should continue to ask, but God will do the rest. That's what I can say. There is a nice saying in James chapter 4, verses 2 and 3. What does it say? You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. So all our askings may not be wise for God's way. So that is what our problems are. But prayer we can always ask, and God knows what is best. There is when to pray. I would suggest pray always and always. That's what I am going to the next part. Pray always and always. Any time is good for prayer. But I would always propose one particular time you should pray. One particular place you should always think of praying. Jesus went to a lonely place to pray. Jesus went evenings of the day to pray, or early morning. He had a time, he had a specific space. A sacred time, sacred space is very good for all of us. All of us should cultivate personally in our life a particular place. It need not be church. It can be a part of our room, a part of our workplace, and part of the time of the day. Even few seconds, you should be connected daily. Jesus did that. Jesus set us an example of praying. So we should always have a particular time and particular space for prayer. That's sacred time and sacred space. Now we are in the COVID-19. We cannot come to church. For us, the best place, I always believe, best place is a church and the Blessed Sacrament. Now we are deprived of this Blessed Sacrament to have a direct experience of the Blessed Sacrament in the church. I'm sure and I hope after this COVID-19 or lockdown is over, we have the urge, like the surge, St. Teresa Church, to come to the church and pray in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament. That's the best place, I would say, for us, privileged place to pray to the Lord. So I hope you will come. And when you come to the church after several weeks and months now, don't come to the church for sightseeing. Oh, we have missed so many things in the church, and look around everywhere and finally look at the tabernacle. Come with that urge, a surge of the heart to pray to the Lord. So that is the best way. Now, the next question was the last question, experiencing God through our senses. Tony from New Zealand asked, why am I not able to speak to God and experience Him through our senses? Senses means 5 senses, panchendriyas, sense of touch, sense of seeing, sense of taste, sense of hearing, etc. And he says early saints had the ability to see, hear and experience God. Why not we? Now I think you must have got some of the answers. Prayer is not talking and hearing. It is a relationship, and relationship has to be experienced. Something I answered. So something more I will express. Now we human beings, to pray, we have to use our body language. Means we have to use our body. Catechism says, our Catechism of the Catholic Church and the UCAT says, one cannot pray without the body. So if you don't have body, you cannot pray. We need body to pray, and the body language is also very important. So that is the first thing to understand. Body language means a body postures, body expressions. Jesus used body language to pray. Jesus, in his parable of the prayer, where a priest and the tax collector went to pray, he vividly narrates the tax collector put his head down and prayed, and the Pharisee put his head up and stood firm and prayed. Two postures. When Jesus, in his own time, in his own life, he had different postures for praying. During the transfiguration, he stood and prayed. During the agony, he prostrated on the ground and prayed. That was his body language used at that time and at that moment to communicate fully what he experiences and expresses towards God. Body senses and body language are very, very important for praying. We cannot pray with our body. And so our body postures are part of our body language and expressing our connectivity and relationship with God. So when you come to church and all that, our body language, body visibility is very important. Even connected to our dress. Dress is extension of our body language. So we need to understand that language and all that. Not that because we have hotline with God and all that. Saints and mystics were in a way closely related. They had a relationship. Probably we can also develop that relationship. We have not developed. Saints and mystics had a close relationship with God. Some of the saints talked and related to God as a friend or intimate friendship they had. Mystics and all that. So it is a relationship more than talking. And basically on this, senses being used, touches and all, eyes and words and all that. There are three types of prayer Catechism explains. I do not know you use all these three levels of prayer. No, types, three levels of prayer. The first level of prayer, Catechism says, is vocal prayer. Most of us are used to vocal prayer. Vocal prayer is using words. When we use words to pray, we have vocal prayers. That's one type of prayer. For example, Our Father, when we recite, it's a vocal prayer. Hail Mary, vocal prayer. Psalms, when we recite, vocal prayer. Jesus used vocal prayer at times. He sang psalms, chanting psalms on the way to the Garden of Gethsemane. We have beautiful example of that. And at the time of death, he again prayed psalms, my God, why did you forsake me? He used the psalm. It is there in the psalm, that prayer. Jesus used right psalms at the right time. We use sometimes wrong psalms at the wrong time. So they are all vocal prayers. Very good, very effective vocal prayer. So they are all vocal prayer. We need to go beyond sometimes to another type of prayer. Sometimes most of us don't use second level of prayer, that is mental prayer or meditation. We are not taught, unfortunately, in catechism classes, we don't teach our children or youngsters or adults second type of prayer, mental prayer. We teach them only vocal prayer. We teach them some prayers from our catechism. But do we teach them meditations, mental? What is mental prayer? Without words, praying without words, in silence, going beyond words. That means using our thoughts, minds and reflections. A beautiful example of this mental prayer is the Catholic Church speaks about this meditation, Jesus prayer. Slowly I will introduce different meditations in our Catholic Church, beginning with the Jesus prayer. It is not a vocal prayer, it is a mental prayer. It's a beautiful mental prayer, and that mental prayer can keep us connected to God throughout our life. It's a type of mental prayer from the beginning of the church. Very early century it started. So that is mental prayer, using thoughts and images. Mental prayer, we don't use words there, but only thoughts and minds. Then there is a third level, probably mystics and monks use, we say, but we can also use, if you are introduced to that, if you are trained to that. That is called contemplative prayer. What is contemplative prayer? Wordless, thoughtless prayer. You don't use thoughts, You don't use reflections. You don't use images. You don't use words. Can we pray without words and thoughts? Yes. Contemplative prayer. Every religion has got contemplative prayer. Even Catholic faith has got contemplative prayer. Catechism of the Catholic Church speaks about contemplative prayer. How do you use contemplative prayer? Even ordinary people can use contemplative. You don't use words. You don't think anything. You just stay still and experience the relationship with God. When you come to church, you can use contemplative prayer. Go beyond meditation. Go beyond mental prayer. I'll give an example. Saint John Mary Vianney gives this example. He asked an ordinary farmer, how does he pray? He asked him, how does he pray? And you know what the ordinary farmer says? I look at him, he looks at me. That is my prayer. I don't say anything, I don't think anything. I look at Jesus and Jesus looks at me. That is, in a way, I believe, ordinary people's contemplative prayer. No thinking, no words, no imagination used. Just enjoying, relishing the presence of each other. That is contemplative. We can do this. And there are different contemplative meditations too. Probably in another series of sessions, I'll introduce meditation methods in the Catholic way, in the Catholic Church, beginning with the Jesus prayer. I'll conclude with this thought. The UCAT says every prayer should transform persons. Prayer is not to transform God, prayer is to transform myself. Prayer is not to transform so much the mindset of God, it is the mindset of each one of us. So the best way to check whether you pray, think of the moment before you prayed and think of the moment after you prayed. Was there any change? Think of the moment before you prayed and think of the moment after you prayed. Whether you prayed for 5 minutes or 5 hours does not matter. Think of the one. Was there any change before you prayed and to the moment after you prayed? If there was no change at all in you, you never prayed. This is what UCAT 506 question dealing with. Some kind of transformational change in your mindset, in your attitude, in your lifestyle, in your relationship style. Was there any change that really happened? And did it bring any peace? A piece of positive emotions that raised spirit's fruits like love or joy or peace, some kind of mindset attitudes in you. If no change at all happened, you never prayed. So do pray because God prayed. And when you pray, have some transformation within us, not transformation others. Don't ask for changing others. They will never change. First, change each one of us. And that is the way we are connected to God. And it is a relationship with God. Enjoy that relationship every day. And I hope you will continue to enjoy that relationship every day by finding a sacred time and sacred space in your life. Thank you once again. We will meet again on next Tuesday at Ask Online, Answers for the Seekers of the Kingdom. Send your questions. Again, we have several questions still waiting, but we are very happy to receive more questions and on the questions or doubts related to the previous Ask Online. Thank you. God bless you all. Happy Ascension tomorrow.